What is the metaverse? Is there only one metaverse or multiple metaverses? What is the difference between metaverse and gaming? Well, welcome back to another episode of the Starseed channel. I'm your host Cynthia. Today, we're going to dive into everything you want to know about the metaverse. Before we dive into the history and many common misconceptions about the metaverse, I wanted to give a little definition about in my perspective, what is the metaverse? Contrary to many beliefs, metaverse is not a virtual reality. It is a very dangerous thinking to think that metaverse is a virtual world. It makes people think that it's not real, so wouldn't treat it seriously as our real world or the physical world. In contrary, metaverse is a parallel reality that our consciousness is going to reside into once we complete the transition and shift our consciousness into a higher dimensional reality. People often equate themselves with the body, but the truth is, this body is nothing more than an avatar. The true essence about who we are is our consciousness, and the reality is wherever our consciousness is focusing on. So take that thought into your mind. Let's dive into everything you wanted to know about the metaverse. Hold on, you might think, this sounds very different than what everybody is talking about. How can you prove it? And then how does this even related to the word metaverse? Well, hold that thought in your mind. Let us dive deeper into it. First, let's talk about where the word metaverse comes from. The word metaverse was coined in 1992 by author Neil Stephenson in his famous scientific novel, The Snow Crash. It refers to a fully immersive virtual reality or virtual world where people's consciousness can go in, take on different forms as avatars, while interact, play, live with other people in real time. However, the concept of the metaverse is actually nothing new. If we go all the way back to the age of Mayan and the pyramid, we will see that human has always been living and shaping realities with their imagination. Whether it's a 3D stimulated gaming world or just pure imagination from stories and tales, we create stories that bound us together in a way that is much bigger than ourselves. And from there, we create things from our imagination, which then come back to shape our realities. The process of creation always stems from our imagination. And from there, we'll find a way to manifest it into our real world or the reality. However, this step towards the metaverse will be a defining moment for the whole humanity, as this literally changes the speed of imagination to manifestation to a whole nother level. I personally received the message back in 2018 as my life mission in this lifetime on Earth is to help the humanity going through this transition from three-dimensional reality to five-dimensional reality. You can learn and hear more about my personal story and why I'm doing what I'm doing in the Space of Mind podcast. You might be curious, how does three-dimensional and five-dimensional reality even related to the metaverse? Well, if you think about it, in three-dimensional reality, time is a constant and the space is limited. We cannot go back and forth in time, it can only move forward. And it takes us time to go from one place to another. In the fourth dimensional, however, time becomes a variable, and the space is no longer a limitation. We can go back and forth in time, and we can be in any place at any given moment. However, everything is still constrained within the same timeline. In the fifth dimension, timeline becomes a variable. Not only we're able to go into different time period, we can actually shift in between different realities and different timelines. If we think about the promise of the metaverse, or maybe even we use gaming as the reference, we can go through different time period of a character's life. We can go to any place at any time, and we even able to have different endings for the same character. Given if we mistakenly played some part and the character died, we can always reload and then choose another path, so the character will end up in a different ending or different reality, so to speak. Or we can actually change a character altogether to experience something completely different. The range of our creativity and the range of what we can experience will no longer be bound by the three-dimensional physical rules that we're having in today's world. There are a lot of debates in some misconceptions about the metaverse. I'll give my personal perspective about the two most popular ones. The first is there one or more metaverse? A lot of people get confused whether there's only one metaverse or there are multiple metaverses for people to experience. My definition is that there will be many different mini-universes within the bigger metaverse. If we refer to metaverse as the 5-dimensional reality we just talked about, 5-dimensional reality opens our consciousness up into different realities and different possibilities or even different timelines all at the same time. Thus, it is diversified and different in its nature. However, all of these timeline or mini-universes will be connecting under the same thread, which is the bigger metaverse. Another important part of why we wanted to build the metaverse on top of the blockchain is that so no single entity can control and determine everything about this new world. Think about it, it's quite scary if there's one centralized entity that can choose to delete or ban you from existence altogether. It will be such a horrible dystopian. The one we definitely don't want our consciousness to live in the future. And the second popular misconception is metaverse and gaming. A lot of people get confused in between the metaverse and gaming, as they are both virtual stimulated world where people interact with avatars. However, there are huge distinctions between the two. Game is not a new concept, just as storytelling is not a new concept in the human history. It exists since the dawn of the humanity. It is a form of entertainment via interactive activities that limited in a set of boundaries and rules. We still have these ancient games in today's society. Like all the sports, whether soccer, basketball, tennis, it is a form of game and entertainment. It's only just the recent years people starting to referring gaming as only to the computer games. While gaming is limited in its entertainment nature, the metaverse has a much bigger scope that encompasses a lot wider range of activities, including social, working, learning, even business opportunities that satisfy a lot more human needs than entertainment does. Also, while the metaverse is a decentralized network of interconnected realities that allows for spontaneous and unexpected activities, gaming, on the other hand, primarily takes place in a centralized, controlled environment with limited activities. While both are creating immersive world for people to interact with, the very nature of the two are very distinct. Last, I wanted to refer a little back to what we talked about in the beginning. Why the metaverse is so important to us. Because the reality is wherever we put our attention in. We exist as the consciousness. So wherever we're focusing our consciousness is the reality. If most of our attention will be poured into this virtual or parallel reality, then it becomes the reality of our collective consciousness. We're still very early in terms of developing the metaverse. I like to think that we're in the beginning of a Big Bang, in which that we have unlimited possibilities of forming rules for the world for our future consciousness to live in. It is super important for everyone, not just the people who are building or working in the field of metaverse, to think about what kind of world, what kind of rule we wanted to have for this new universe. I hope this episode can help you understand a little better about the deeper meaning for the word metaverse and why it is so important for us to build towards an open and free metaverse altogether. As always, feel free to leave in the comments below if you have any questions for me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.